Hello, I just wanted to give this demonstration on my thoughts. If you wanted to be able to streamline creating posts on a website and in a Word document, I would honestly start with a Markdown format. So for now, I created a basic Markdown file. Uh, so I'll just cat it out into the terminal, and this is just basic Markdown. So this is the primary heading. Then these are like headings that are like stepped under it for the table of contents into um, like a Microsoft Word if you want to generate it once you get into a Word document. So there's a really helpful program. You can get it for pretty much any platform I know of. It's called Pandoc, and it is a command line utility, but you just feed it the Markdown file, and then you give it an output, so -O. And as long as you give it a docx extension, it'll know the output as a Microsoft Word file. So I'll open up Writer, then open this directory, and there's that file, and it automatically does the headings here in your paragraph formats. And you can see it does body text after the first paragraph. So it does a very good job at setting your regular like headings and stuff like that for your Word format. So if you want to put into Hugo, you essentially just I'm gonna cd into my Hugo directories. So I'll just try it on my personal site just to show uh, how that would work. So so I'll just open that with Codium. So I'll run a Hugo server to make sure I don't have it already hard coded into the HTML. So Hugo server, so Hugo space server, it just builds it and then it hosts it on localhost 1313. And you can control click to open it just like I did. So nothing funny going on here and nothing here. So essentially, I'll close it for now. I'll copy it from that directory. So that was in documents and demonstration. Then I'll copy the markdown file from there. And from here, I'll go into the content directory, blog 2025. 01. I'll just put it in there for now. Make a directory, content, blog, 2025, 01. Then I'll just move. I probably could have done that with a folder tree easier, but then I'll just rename that to index so that specifies that it's like the home file for that directory. Then then once you get into Hugo like this, and the reason why I do it this way is that the posts that I have pictures on, as you can see in the one above it, I can just do the links as that picture. And since it's in this, it'll output to the same folder once built. That link will actually work for that picture. Uh, so that's uh, that's how I do it. And then from here, I just give it some front matter. And you do that between the dashes to do it as YAML. And how YAML goes is the front matter field, and you put a colon, and that'll be your front matter for that field. So the title will give it a page title. So I'll just paste that in there and delete those 2 lines. And I'll delete the extra one, shouldn't need it. And then give it a date. And I have a shortcode, so I can just do HG control space. And that puts in the Hugo time. Those snippets are on my dotfiles repo. And then draft. And I'll give that a value of false with no quotes. So essentially now that markdown file's there, Hugo will see that, it'll compile it as a web page. So because this is a single page, meaning that it's not a page that's expected to be an index of sorts, it'll look in the layouts folder because I don't have a theme specified. I just did all the layouts myself for now. And so it'll be like, okay, this is a single file, meaning it's not expected to contain a list. So it's going to define the main block, which is off the base of. And I'll show that in a second. Then I'll take the title, which is from here, and I'll place it there and do the date in this specific format. So essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, then the seconds are 5, and then the year's 6. So that's how the Hugo date format works. And they'll put the content in from the Markdown. Hugo will automatically do the Markdown as HTML, so it automatically converts from Markdown to HTML for this content part. Then I do the next insection and the previous insection buttons. That automatically does those. So then on the lists that the list pages that might have it, so it's this blog underscore index. So the indexes with underscores at the beginning are lists. Uh, so it'll look at that as a list here. So once it gets down to the page list here, it'll range through the paginator pages. I do that so that paginates it. Then for each page that sees, it will create a link with the permalink and the title, and it'll check if it's truncated, and it'll do the same thing for the read more link. Then for the paginator, I have it automatically create a paginator if it's more than one page. So the with block, essentially that's if the paginator exists. Uh, it will, and if previous exists, it'll create the previous block with a link. And if the next exists, it'll create the next block. And anything with the with block is in context of the item you're checking for. So it's using the URL of this next page or whatnot. And the base of is in the default here. And this wraps everything, so every page that Hugo will create in this project will be wrapped by this here. So this is essentially just pulling from the assets directory on main, or CSS, and then main is just pulling from that. And then it's fingerprinting it. So if I make changes to that, it'll fingerprint it so the web browser will know to use a new file. And that's all the fingerprint pipe does. And the same thing for the JavaScript. So it's just, then it pulls a permalink for that, and then it just wraps everything. So this is the header. So for instance, if you have in your partials folder here in the layouts, so header, that's the header, so it's pulling in the site logo and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how Hugo works. It just uses these bits of HTML and the codes that you put in them to pretty much construct everything for you. So because it's doing all that for me, if I run the Hugo server again, so Hugo space server, that hosts the server on the local host. If I scroll down, you can see that that's there, and it's also on the blog page. And let's say the summary is too long for you, you don't want it to be that long. So on your content files, all you have to do is put an extra line, then you put in a comment that just says more. And when you save that, uh, then go back to the page, you can see it stops there because I put that more at the bottom of this paragraph. So if I move this down, oops. So if I move that down, you can see that move on the thing they're approving that that's ending the summary there. So that's uh that's how you end summaries early if you want to. And also shortcodes. So shortcodes can make things a little bit easier. So then you don't have to once you run the Hugo command and then you don't have to do custom tags or whatnot. So if you have classes, so if you're using Bootstrap or something like that, uh, I actually already have it constructed for mine because I use it for my links page, even though I do CSS manually. I have the div shortcode again. That's in my GitHub repo for this. Then if you do a class for your div, uh, I'll just give it a class of and then you can close it out just like you would with HTML. So you do that and then you do a slash div to close it out. So since I did that and this is in there, I'll inspect there and you can see that it created this div here. Make it a little bigger so you can see it. It created it with this is a class. And again, that's how I do this links page. So the links page, I do the class of social links, so my CSS file has that specified, then it formats any link underneath that a certain way. So that's essentially how I have the shortcode set up, and it's like all that's doing is it's using, so in the layouts and shortcodes directory, you you have your shortcodes in there, and this is the div one. So it's doing a with block with a get class. So if there is a class, it'll put this in here, then I'll put the whatever is specified in the class. And you have to do it and end with a lot of the blocks. So that's pulling the inner what's inside of the shortcode tags. It's rendering the string, so it's also converting it to HTML and making sure the HTML is safe. So these pipe commands just pipe this to here is like a workflow. That's kind of how pipes work in Hugo, and that's just how I got mine set up. This is probably longer than I want it to be, but I find it's easier to explain things in a video or a live demonstration than trying to type out into Facebook comments. So that's just how I got everything set up and how I feel it can save time for some workflows, even if you need it in a Word document, because you can use Pandoc to convert the same Markdown files to Word, then do your edits you need to do in Word. Then you can bring it over into Hugo, add your frontmatter, any shortcodes you need, then you're all set. So that's just my theory on it.